So, as you're probably aware of, there's a new Stronghold game coming out next year. As a big fan of the original games, I've been following the development of Warlords with a close eye. While some of the recent games were good, they never managed to hook me like the original game and its sequel Crusader, so I'm hoping Warlords will be able to do what its predecessors couldn't. The first we heard of the game was back at E3 2019, where we got to see a trailer showcasing the new setting and a new core mechanic, the Warlords system. While that feature, among others, garnered some excitement, I'm not going to sugarcoat the initial response it got from some fans, which could be best described as mixed. The art style and overall graphical fidelity were the main offenders, being described by many as oversaturated, out of date, and unrealistic. There's also a large portion of fans who long to see a return to a 2D Stronghold game, and have a sour taste in their mouth from earlier 3D entries. That's something I could talk more about, but it's best suited for a different video. If you do want to hear more about it though, I did talk with Firefly Studios marketing director Nick Tannehill recently, so go check out that video if you're interested. Anyway, let's get to today. Recently at Gamescom, Firefly had a playable demo for those attending the show, and were able to try out a 15-minute invasion scenario that features the new Warlords system. While I was unfortunately unable to get to the show myself, Firefly were kind enough to send me over a copy to try it out from home, and give my opinions on it with no restrictions. So that's what I'll be doing today. Before we get into it, please keep in mind this is a short mission on a small map with limited availability to the game's units, buildings and systems, so in no way is this representative of the final game. It should give us a bit of an idea though, and hopefully function as a way to get some feedback to the developers on things I and others think they can improve or change for the final product. First off, I want to talk about the graphics. In my opinion, they look significantly better than the release trailer. Colours are far more saturated and come off as a lot more realistic. And one of the complaints I kept hearing was that the game looks outdated, and at this point I think that has mostly been answered. Buildings and environments look great, and there's been significant work done in particular on the trees and water effects since E3. I'm not saying this game's a pioneer of graphical fidelity or anything, but Stronghold has never been about that, and I think the current implementation looks as good as it needs to be. It looks nice. My only real issue is with some of the effects, namely explosions, fire and catapults. They all look fairly outdated and honestly a bit cheap feeling, like how the walls react to being hit here, and how the fire oxen detonates here. I will admit though, it is pretty gnarly how all the body parts and people just fly out of there. It's a nice little detail. Next, let's talk about gameplay. Like I said earlier, this is a short scenario, so there's not a lot of things to explore here. So I'm not going to be talking about things like resource gathering and managing your economy, because honestly there's just not much time for it. By the time you'd built a few farms and some production buildings, the timer's run down and you're back to the start. What is available feels like Stronghold as you manage your supply to produce the goods required, but there's not enough to give a just opinion. And it's a similar situation with the combat. What is there feels good, but there's limited options, and once again they prevent me from giving a complete opinion on combat systems. One thing I can talk about is precision, which is something the devs have made a point about in marketing the game. Their aim was to translate the precision of placing buildings in the 2D game into their 3D one, and I have to say it feels very good. Walls especially, I never felt like I was hamstrung in putting them where I wanted, which is helped by the ability to swing around the camera in the 3D environment. Now the last thing I want to cover is the thing I'm most concerned about, and that's the Warlords system. Now I'm not sure if this is its final or close to final implementation, but as it stands now it feels underdeveloped and doesn't have as much of an impact on the game as I would like. Basically, you get access to this map which shows all the available warlords. With enough diplomacy points which you earn in game, you can buy their trust, and can subsequently request assistance via troops or resources, among other things, and also upgrade their castles. The problem is, I'm just not really sure what they're there for. Sure, you can request resources for diplomacy points and have them appear in your inventory, but apart from that, they just sit there. 2 of them didn't even build anything around their keeps despite me upgrading them, and the one that did only added a tower or 2, and they already had walls and soldiers. I can assume this part of the game just isn't in there yet, and it will be built upon in the future. And there's also not a ton of minutiae to what is there. For example, requesting resources just has them appear in your stockpile, and it would be cool if they sent a caravan or something and you'd have to defend it from hostiles. Also, these vague descriptions don't really help much. It would be nice if they went into some more detail about their bonuses, and what upgrading them actually affected. Now, all things considered, I've enjoyed my brief time with Stronghold Warlords. I'm happy to say my concerns with the game's graphics have been put to rest, and I hope those out there who have the same concerns feel the same. From what I've experienced with the actual gameplay and castle building, well, there's not enough in this demo to give a full opinion. But what I can say is the actual placement and construction of buildings, walls and castle defences feels very precise and on par with older Strongholds. And overall, the limited access to building your castle, managing your economy, and fighting enemies through the combat system does feel good, but there's just not in there to give a full opinion right now. But the base is nice, so I'm looking forward to playing more of it when there's access to all the game's units, buildings, and systems. The major concern I have right now is with the Warlords system. I hope it's still being worked on and will receive more attention before release, because as of right now, it feels insignificant, underdeveloped, and inferior to the previous estate system in Stronghold 2. I'll be sending my feedback along to the developers in more detail, and I'm sure they'll be taking that into account. Overall, I'm excited to play more of the game as we get closer to release, and this demo has left me feeling optimistic. The core feels solid, and if the final build is of similar quality, then I think we're in for a good time. And I want to thank Firefly for sending me over this code. They didn't have to do that, so I appreciate them sending it over and letting me speak my mind on my opinions of the game, so they can hopefully take my feedback and others' feedback into account to make the best Stronghold it could be on release. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to subscribe for future videos, including a full review of Stronghold Warlords on release, and hit that bell to be notified of when they go live. And if you need more Zade before my next video, then you can catch me on my live stream, where I'm live 5 days a week at 2 PM Pacific, 5 PM Eastern, at twitch.tv/Zade_95. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.